Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, Jon Jordan. Now, in this video, I am going to make the argument that DeFi has killed blockchain gaming, but DeFi is also going to resurrect blockchain gaming in a new form, and I think in a very exciting form. So let's first look at what's going on in blockchain gaming. So when I use that, I'm using it in quite a broad sense, as we tend to do with blockchain gaming. But actually, when it comes to DeFi, we know that's just happening on Ethereum at the moment. It may come to other chains. I think that is unlikely, given network effects. But anyway, this is where we are in 2020. So in this graph, I basically got all the activity across all the blockchain games and then split it out into individual chains. So we can see here, currently EOS is the biggest blockchain in terms of daily activity, and Hive with Splinterlands is number 2, and then everything else is down the bottom. But if we look at the start of the year, particularly we're looking at the green line here. So green line is Ethereum. The start of the year, for quite a number of months, Ethereum was the biggest blockchain in terms of gaming activity. And what we see here is a massive drop off at the start of May, and this is happening because of gas prices. So DeFi comes along, DeFi, decentralized finance, dApps, and we start to see a lot of activity around those, particularly as they start to roll out what we call governance tokens. So those are tokens that are required to vote, or you need them to vote on what's going to happen to the dApp in future, and the market immediately attaches a monetary value to these governance tokens, and people will then start making sure they collect as many as possible, and you do that by doing more activity in those dApps, so what becomes called yield farming. And there's been a massive explosion in that. It's still ongoing, but because lots of value is being generated, then the whole Ethereum network is being clogged up. Or not clogged up, that's the wrong way of putting it. There are a lot more transactions on Ethereum than can be handled. And so the way Ethereum deals with that is it says, well, you have to, whoever wants to pay the most to get their transactions through, that's the transactions I'll allow through. And obviously those are transactions that are for large amounts of financial value rather than people trying to play games. So we can see the impact on this gas price situation with a couple of games. So My Crypto Heroes was the biggest, for the longest time really, was the biggest blockchain game on Ethereum. This is 2019 to 2020. And we can see here very clearly the drop-off of blockchain activity that happens when gas prices go up, and now it's effectively zero. You can actually play this game not using the blockchain. You can play it as a normal game, not using the blockchain. So this isn't saying the whole game is dead, but certainly the blockchain activity, the activity using the Ethereum blockchain has basically gone to zero. And it's a similar thing for 0x Universe. Not such a big game, but everything that happens in 0x Universe is happening on the Ethereum blockchain. So we see lots of volatility depending on gas fees. These big drop off when the gas fee is expensive. And basically what we saw before with My Crypto Heroes, the gas fee gets expensive and people just stop playing this game because it just costs too much to get a transaction through. And now basically again, no one is playing this game. So it's gone from 750 daily active unique wallets down to 1 or 2. So I think we can definitely say DeFi has the impact of DeFi has killed gaming on the Ethereum blockchain. Obviously, not so much on other blockchains, but Ethereum still is the most important blockchain for gaming, and we can have a look at the main reason why that's the case. So if we look at the value of the blockchain game sector, this is 2020, starting in January. See down there at 0. Green line is Ethereum. I've actually included OpenSea, the marketplace where most of the trading happens of these NFTs. And we can kind of see here, EOS is in blue, Tron is in purple, all the other ones are in red, and none of those are getting over $5 million. Ethereum, doesn't really matter what's happening, the gas price or no gas prices, gets these little upticks when when there's some pre-sales going on. So this is the Sandbox doing one of its land sales. Another big pre-sale here. We can just see it's not an awful lot of value. So this is tens of millions of dollars. So the whole sector is about $30 million, but like $26 million worth of that is running on Ethereum. So while Ethereum isn't the biggest blockchain in terms of activity anymore. It still is. It still captures the majority of the value, and we can see this if we just look at the market share split. Even now, it's still 75% of the value of the blockchain game sector is on Ethereum. So, particularly because with DeFi, we're talking about how the creation of a lot of value has changed the DeFi sector. Knock-on effect that has meant because games don't have so much value in them, people playing games can't pay for the gas fees to play the games. But the creation of this value in the DeFi sector, I think, is very important for the future of gaming, and I'll explain why. Okay, so the prime example I would suggest is looking at the UEarn token. So the UEarn token is kind of the most meta of all the DeFi tokens at the moment. It is basically a dApp that works out where is the best place to put your crypto in these DeFi dApps in order to earn the most interest rate, and also to farm the most of these new governance tokens. So if you look down here very quickly, it starts off at we have $34 here. This is a project designed by one coder, put out as a bit of an experiment. And what do we see? So we're up here. It's just gone live on Binance, which has driven the current pricing. So it's $11,000. This is one token. This is the sort. This is the sort of thing we're seeing in DeFi. So a lot of value being created. Market cap now $300 million. This is one guy who's created this, very smart guy. But $300 million market cap. Whatever you think about these market caps, but $300 million has been created in less than a month. So DeFi is proving very good at creating this value, and everyone wants to make money. That's all kind of well and good. But then we see when all this money is sloshing around the Ethereum system, what can you do with it? Well, obviously, people with money want to make more money. So I'm sure those profits will go into future DeFi things. But it's a bubble. The valuations of these things will come back to normal at some point. And that's what happens in markets, whether it's whether the bubble pops like we saw with the Bitcoin price in 2017, 2018, or whether it's kind of a kind of more controlled decline. We don't know. Normally, these things pop in crypto. But there's a lot of value still created out there, billions of dollars, $6 billion kind of estimated now. So when this kind of froth blows over and we get back to a more normal state and people are building these dApps, where is this value going to flow? Obviously, a whole bunch of it will stick in DeFi. That's absolutely fine. But what you're going to see, I think, is you're going to see it flowing. We've already seen it flowing in stuff like crypto art. So there's a lot of people buying this very expensive crypto art. But also, I think see it flowing back into NFTs. So those don't have to be game NFTs, but they historically game NFTs have been one of the most popular high value items in terms of the NFT space on Ethereum. But more importantly, I think, is there's been a lot of value creation around these kind of DeFi dApps. There's still not many users in terms of a lot of this activity is driven by a very small number of whales. The top 100 probably drive 80% of the value, I would think. So we're not really seeing mass market adoption. Now, the one thing, blockchain games have not done mass market adoption at all well. Let's be clear. But the one thing that games do very well in general is gain mass adoption. So I think what we'll see, both in terms of the value that has been created in DeFi has to go somewhere, or a percentage of it has to go somewhere. And more importantly, I think these DeFi dApps have now created a lot of value. But they have to sustain themselves. And while you can build a community on Discord and Twitter, that's a different sort of community than a community that comes back into your dApp every day and does things and creates alliances and goes on quests and the sort of thing that games have been very good over the last 10 years, 20 years really, at creating very sticky communities. So that's why I think we're going to see this kind of Venn diagram sort of thing with games and DeFi. And to be honest, we already see the first signs of it. So let's go and see how DeFi and games are already interacting. So this is back in March this year, so a few months ago now, and this is Maker. MakerDAO, the original DeFi DApp with its DAI stablecoin, which is pegged to the dollar by this kind of complicated feedback mechanic using the Maker governance token, really. They started their DAI gaming initiative back in March through the Maker Foundation. So obviously Maker has access to this DAI stablecoin, and it wants to help DAI reach critical mass in the global economy. And one of the things it's doing, I'm sure not the only thing, but one of the things it's doing is focusing on games. So it's not done a lot of kind of fancy moves yet, but we are seeing kind of some things. So Axie Infinity, there is a DAI branded NFT in the game for people who created went into Maker and created a vault, so stuck in some ETH or some other collateral and minted some DAI, created some DAI. They got a special NFT in the game. People are interested in NFTs. NFTs can then be sold off. This is a scarce item. So some other games, Forgotten Artifacts, not so well known as Axie, a few other kind of projects, Crypto Wars. So this was using DAI as a payment method and a reward method if you won battles in the game. Skyweaver game coming out now, doing some stuff. Also Sandbox, highly anticipated project. Looks like at the moment they're just using that for, or there's DAI City, so the DAI has a location in the game. Also using it for a payment method. And we're starting to see that DAI is actually talking to developers and incentivize developers. So this is not large sums of money. This is, you think that's DAI is $1, so $2,500. But we're starting to see incentivization for game developers to include DAI as a payment method, and in other ways to think about how they would use the branding around that. And we can also see, immediately see with Axie Infinity how a game community was being incentivized to go in and start using MakerDAO. So there's definitely a feedback loop in that. And Axie Infinity is not a massive community, but we could kind of think how as games get bigger, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people playing these games, how you can drive a small percentage of these back into your DApp. And these are people who probably wouldn't otherwise go and open a Maker vault. This is quite a sophisticated DeFi activity to be doing. Generally, people do not do that unless you're really into DeFi. So you're kind of it a community that it'd be very hard for you to gain access to. So this is a deeper integration. It is actually of DAI. So I assume it's part of this gaming initiative. This is a game I've done a lot of videos about, League of Kingdoms, and like many games actually, like Axie Infinity, like Sandbox, it has this idea of land, a permanent NFT. So we can. This is like a. So this map here shows all the land, and this kind of little coloured dot one shows what land has been bought and what land hasn't been bought in this little segment here. So there's a lot of land out there. The game's in beta, so fairly early stages. But what's interesting is the concept of land in real world. We kind of understand that you own land. If you own land, you can build things on it. If you own land, if you land on someone else's land, like in Monopoly, you might have to pay them something. But land is a concept in the real life that flows very well into blockchain in the sense that it has value. There's ownership rights attached to it, and you can gain revenue from doing it. You can, if you have land, you can build a farm and make things, or build a factory on it, or things you can do to improve the land. So very simply, in League of Kingdoms, this is all NFT based land. You can go and own it. And I just clicked on this one here, so pretty randomly. So here's some land. It kind of gives us the level. It tells us who the owning wallet is. And we can see here that this land has accumulated 8.87 DAI. So $8.87 have accumulated on this bit of land. And how this works in this game is that we can see there are there's some monsters there and some resources that you can mine. So when players come on to this bit of land and mine, it's like some gold, I think it's some stone, or kill the monsters to get drops, then this land is accumulating DAI, and the DAI comes from people spending in the game. So a certain percentage of the money being spent in this game is spread out among the land, and if you own the land, you get this money. So this is obviously isn't a lot of money, but if you think about the land, so I think at the pre-sale this was selling for 0.25 ETH. Obviously, the price of ETH has changed quite a lot recently, but you can think of that about $50 at the time, I think. So someone bought this for $50. They still own it. The value of that can go up or down, but they're also accumulating this. We could say roughly $10 in a few months. They've accumulated $10 of value just from the game. Now you can imagine this game goes from a few thousand users to 100,000 users, and think of the value going in. It's £80,000, I think, as dollars been spent in the game so far. You imagine this suddenly becomes a game like plenty of other kind of this type of games where you have millions of dollars a month being pumped into the system, and people are buying these in-game items and then getting spread back to the people who own this, and suddenly the value of accumulated DAI is going to increase tenfold, and obviously the value of the land is going to increase tenfold, because suddenly if you're earning if you're earning, let's say, $50 a month from a piece of land, then you do the maths on that, and what's the value of the land going to be worth a year? Well, go figure, as they say. So this is kind of interesting. It's a very low level, but we can kind of see already there are games they are taking concepts of DeFi and concepts of kind of general finance and sticking those into games, and this could be seen as a passive income. Someone could create a DApp around this and work out which of the you could do the calculations, work out what's on this land at any period of time, work out if there's any castles. You can build your own castle on there and increase it as well. And so suddenly you could build like a framework on top of this that's working out which is you could do yield farming on this game. So it becomes people could build DeFi dApps on top of existing games, as well as games integrating DeFi activities. And the final thing I want to highlight in this DeFi meets blockchain gaming, I've done a video about it already. I think it's incredible. It's not launched yet, but this is Aavegotchi. So this is, or Aavegotchi, I should say. So this is from the Aave team, which is a DeFi DApp that you can typically do things like you can lock money in and get an interest rate. You can borrow money at a higher interest rate. That's how the interest rate is created. You can do flash loans by taking these liquidity pools and doing things with them. Lots of things that Aave is doing. Now we've got Aavegotchi, Tamagotchis, and this is we really see the first kind of tight integration. This actually comes from Aave, so they are a DeFi development team, but they're effectively building a game. I think because a lot of these DeFi projects now have a lot of token value, I think we'll probably end up seeing them buying development teams or hiring game development teams to do these things for them. Certainly as the projects get bigger, you have to kind of, in that sense, follow the money. And equally, I guess we'll see some well-funded games team kind of going to work with DeFi companies. So it'll work both ways. Anyway, an Aavegotchi is an NFT, and very simply, when you create one, you'll create one and you'll use the Aave token. So Aave has these interest-bearing tokens, these A tokens. So you'll create one of these little NFT characters, and it will be stuffed full of value. And a bit like the land we saw before, because it's an interest-bearing token, the value of this NFT will go up. So if you shove some some A tokens in there, then it will get the interest rate that the A creates in Aave. A lot more complicated things as well that they're doing. It's a composable NFT, so you can buy little hats and little things for them, and obviously mini games, and they can go into any game that supports that sort of thing. But it's interesting that we have suddenly NFTs are going from the next level. They're not going from static characters who nothing happens to and only have value based on the game they're at. These will now have value independent of whatever games they're being used in. And obviously you have this kind of if you want to, you can burn your Aavegotchi and get the tokens out there if they, for some reason, the kind of some of the tokens get very valuable. You have this very interesting now mechanic where the NFT value is not based on what someone will pay for it, because you can always burn it out. And those concepts have been around for a while. So there's Engine have always had that as a token mechanic, and there's some people doing things around kind of digital gold as well. So it's not like the first time we've seen that, but this is definitely the best packaging of this kind of concept, and particularly because Aave is one of the key DeFi projects at the moment. That's a very strong message, I think, that they understand they've created a lot of value, and now they need to engage an audience, and games is the best way of doing that. So I do think it's kind of a win-win. in the sense that DeFi has never had any problem creating value, and games have not done. Blockchain games have not created value very well. I don't think they've done it in a slightly manipulative manner where they sell off NFTs in pre-sales, and then it's a bit like an ICO, and I'm not quite clear whether the game is going to get to any scale and these things are going to be worth a lot in the future or not. So that's a good thing to bring together. And then DeFi, really good at building, or good at experimenting with economics, not so good at building strong communities within their dApps, I don't think, apart from incentivizing them by value, which is kind of fine. But games work really well when you incentivize people because you just made a great game and people love playing it and people love building communities, and it's not about financial value. I think if you bring those two things together, that is the rocket fuel, the rocket ship, whatever you want to say, and I think that's where we'll see these things taking off. Of course, this is very Ethereum based, you might be saying. What's going to happen? They've got EOS and Tron and Wax and Flow and all these other great Near, all these other great blockchains, Cardano coming down the road that you can make games on. Yep, absolutely. That'll be interesting to see how they compete. Particularly with the Ethereum games at the moment, you can't play them because the gas fees are so expensive. That's kind of one of the big issues. So I think what we'll see is Ethereum games already are all moving to side chains. So they'll still have a link to Ethereum, but all the gameplay stuff will happen with gasless on these side chains. Obviously, that will take some months to integrate. So I think the advantage of new blockchains is maybe overemphasized. We'll have to see, because the thing that now Ethereum has a lot of is value. And once you have value, that value flows in different ways. And value can obviously be used to attract audience. I think it's harder to attract, not impossible, harder to attract kind of audience and scale if you don't have a lot of value in the system. And I think if you're starting a new blockchain, obviously you have your token distribution. So there is value in the system, but it's value that probably hasn't had this massive speculative increasing bubble. So you've not created a lot of value in the same way that's happened on Ethereum. And that value is probably now locked in the system. I don't think we're seeing a lot of people taking that value out at the moment. It may happen when the bubble bursts a bit. But I think that's the advantage of Ethereum, and I think that's why we will see this particular DeFi gaming collision happening on Ethereum. On something like Flow, one, they're not going to have any DeFi dApps. They're just going to be about kind of gaming dApps. There will be value created there. We're already seeing it with their NBA game. Value's being created. We're seeing it on Wax with their collectibles, creating a few $1 million worth of value. That's helpful to create that value, but to compete with billions of dollars that's already locked into Ethereum, I think is going to be pretty difficult. I'm sure we'll see successful cases on both sides, but I do kind of think the main driver, my prediction for the next 6 months, or so to the year really, the next 6 months, we'll see Ethereum gaming rebound with this highly valuated audience that we now have thanks to DeFi. Could be wrong, of course, not investment advice, but that's just the way I see it at the moment. Thanks for watching the video. This is Blockchain Gaming World, where we sit and think about what's going on with blockchain games and try to make some conclusions, maybe a bit more focused on entertaining than being right. But, I have to make predictions. Going to be wrong as much as I am right. Probably wrong more than I am right, really. But I hope you find it interesting. Thanks for watching the videos. Please subscribe and hope to see you again soon.